afternoon. My name is Ramona von Rossig. And my husband is Larry.
Can you hear her back there?
I'm trying. Can y'all hear me? Yeah. Okay. I don't know how you feel, but I see it through my husband. He has RSD and MS. They are both debilitating. My heart breaks because I cannot fix it. I do my best to take care of him because he has taken such good care of his family before all of this happened. I get frustrated with the system, but I know Larry is even more frustrated than I am. I work, and I am not able to be with him all day. But I'm thankful all of our dogs, we have 3, help to keep him occupied. Being a caretaker isn't easy, but I pull my strength from God, my faith, my family, and friends who pray for Larry every day. I could tell you stories, but you all have your own. I guess the one thing I miss the most from Larry is his laughter. We have been through so much, but I love him more every day. When people ask me how he's doing, I always say, I never say he is having a bad day, but what I do say is, every day's a new day, and some days are better than others. May God bless you all. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sue Pinkham, and I'm the mom of a 25-year-old daughter who's had CRPS and many comorbid conditions for 12 years. It's been a journey that I don't wish on anybody, but the people that we've met during this journey have been totally amazing. I guess the best thing I can tell you as a caregiver is you're amazing to be there for your loved one, and always believe what your loved one tells you. Please don't ever let them down. My daughter has always said to me that I'm the only one that has believed her since day one. She's been through hell. Being a caregiver, you need to learn to help them advocate for themselves. Sometimes it's difficult with what they deal with day in and day out. But as a mom, she's gone through so much. She's lost friends, she's lost family. People didn't believe her for a very long time. But because I can't help her deal with her pain and help her every single day, I've decided that to do the best that I can and to bring awareness to RSD, CRPS, and all the other conditions that she lives with every single day. And the best thing that I can recommend is for you to laugh every day with your loved one. She laughs at me most of the time. But to find things that are positive in your life, find something that your loved one likes to do. I love to help people. I've been like that my whole life, and it's been my mission now since my daughter's been sick to help children and adults who live in chronic pain. I'm also part of an organization called the Coalition Against Pediatric Pain, and myself and 5 moms founded it because there's not very much out there for kids. And as Jim said, this will be our 3rd year. We take kids to pain camp out in Scottsville, Kentucky. The first year we had 16 kids because moms and dads are afraid for their kids to travel. You guys all know what it's like to travel, just when you travel from your room to here, and you traveled, some people came from lots of, pretty far away states as myself, Tammy and Sammy. So we had, the first year we had 16 kids, last year we had over 50 kids, and we'll have over 50 kids today. My next goal was to try and help young adults. So RSDSA is sponsoring the first young adult conference for a weekend. And after we get the young adults under control, we want to work on you guys. So that you come here and listen to all the informational things, but then we want to get you in camp too. You guys can use some Play-Doh therapy.
Hi, I'm Tammy Barrett. Most of you have met my daughter, Samantha. This is why it was going to be hard to do. Okay, Sam's had CRPS for 11 years since she was 13. She had sprained her ankle in dance. She was a dancer, and that's what she had planned to do in her life. At that young age, type A personality, she already knew what she wanted to do. Of course, that changed everything. So what she decided to do was to start having benefit concerts to raise money for RSDSA because she didn't want to see any other kids suffer the way she did. That has brought us to where we are today. You all have met her. This is what she loves to do because she goes through it like all of you and all of us. And it's so important to meet others that go through it and for the caregivers to meet others that go through it because nobody gets it unless you're going through it. As a caregiver, yeah, it's very hard to watch them, especially when they're your kid. But you just gotta go roll with the punches. You become mama bears. You learn to stand up for them, speak loudly. It used to be you agreed on everything a doctor said, and you learn quickly you've just got to question things. If you don't agree, you go with your gut. And then for the people, for the patients, you want to coddle them and tell them they can't do it because you don't want them to hurt. You don't want them to hurt themselves more, but you have to let them do what they feel they can do so they can live. If you try holding them back, it's just going to, make them just not happy. You got to just live life every day as much as you can. They may be feeling better, may not be perfect, but if they feel they can go this place, they do that, you got to let them because they've got to still live and know that there's still something to go for. Now, I'm very proud of my girl. She does this and helps everybody. She managed to go through college, graduated top of her class, double majored. Meanwhile, in and out of the wheelchairs, having the bad days, because she also has the other stuff, the EDS and the POTS and everything. But she is a fighter, and gets married July. So there's so many accomplishments, and we just got to let her go. It's very hard to step back as they become an adult, though, and not be mama bear. But you have to let them do what they feel they can and not hold them back and just be there to support them and understand that they're going to hurt afterwards, but just be there, that they got to do something they enjoyed for a day. Just got to let them live. But it is very, very hard, I know, because you want to protect them because you watch what they go through. And also, on top of that, you have to do stuff for yourself, because I know a lot of us, all our time is helping them, taking care of them, and we don't get a chance to take care of ourselves, but that's very important for everybody, for them and for yourself. And then again, making these connections, keep in contact. I was lucky enough through the concerts that Sam held from the time she was 14, I got to meet Sue. Not in a whole different way. But because of her, we made a connection with somebody that knew, and thank gosh it was early into Sam's diagnosis, and then it got us to doctors and other people, so we really had that support. Of course, we don't live far from each other, but only see each other in other states when we come to these things, but it's very important to just stay connected and know that there's people out there that understand what you're going through and to reach out to them when you have a problem. Just for support, advice, just to have it, being in the ear, because we're all there, we're all living it, and we all understand. So, and everybody loves each other. It's a big family. It's not the kind of family that you really wanted, but we get it. So I hope you guys have had a good day, and we'll be here for anything, any questions you have. Thank you.
Sorry, I have to stand up. I taught school for 30 years. I probably don't need this microphone, but I can shout it out to you. I am Star Herman. I'm the daughter of see, I've already messed up. I'm the mother of Kelly Herman. She will be 29 next week, and she has had RSD, CRPS, and she doesn't like CRPS because it's called the complex regional pain syndrome. She said, Mama, it's not in a region. It is everywhere in my body. I have it everywhere. And I said, I understand, darling. Doesn't matter what it's named. It just means that you have something that you have to get over. She is the light of my life. As a caregiver, I'm not a patient person, so I've had to become somebody I never thought I would be. I never wanted to play nurse. I always wanted to play teacher. I would not be in this situation unless God put me here. And Kelly has taught me that. Although I had a strong spiritual, affiliation with church and all of that, what I've learned from her about spirituality is amazing. Because she did go through a period of time when she was not out of the bed for over 3 years. We could not touch her. We could not hug her. She could not stand the sheets. I mean, it was just awful. But you had to continue to advocate. You had to continue to try to find, and some of the heroes in her life and mine are in this room. Jim Roach put us in contact with people. Pradeep Chopra was one of them. I still haven't met him today. I hope he doesn't get away. But he would even talk to me on a Sunday night about my child, who he had never seen, and help give me advice. I can't even tell you what that means because it's lonely. Because during this period of time, my husband had COPD and he was dying. So she was on the bottom floor, he was on the top floor. I slept in the middle. Whoever called me first, that's who I went to. And so that's life of a caregiver. But that is also a blessed life because you learn so much from them. And so other people that are in this room are Dr. Johnson. So it's just amazing to me that I'm seeing some of these heroes because we did go all over the United States getting her treatments. We went to Schwartzman, we went to Cleveland Clinic, we went to Dr. Kirkpatrick. We saw all the biggies. And really we've gotten probably better treatment here from Dr. Johnson with the ketamine that we got here than anywhere else. Part of it is because it didn't break me. Her college education was spent on ketamine treatments. Now it does give her a chance at life. Sometimes it doesn't help her pain more than it helps her function. But when we were in that hospital the other day, the CEO of the hospital came through, and I happen to know that's who I sent a letter to about Kelly. And she said, oh, is that him, Mom? I said, yes, that's him. She said, will you let me show you what I can do? And she got up out of her wheelchair, and she walked down that hallway and back. And it was such an incredible thing to see her to be able to do that at any point in her life. She wanted to be here. She wanted to be here. She couldn't. Her crutches fell off and hit her in the knees and in the ankles. And with her, that's what happens. What we would not consider an injury is an injury to them. It takes very little. As I've listened to everybody today, what I've learned is I've hurt her in many ways with things I tried. One of them was the desensitization. One was taking her to Children's Hospital in Philadelphia, and they did that intense physical therapy that is just absolutely it's horrible. I can't believe I did it to her. But that was the only thing I had open to me when she first got it because there was nothing going on here, I'll tell you that. So, I've tried everything. Some of it I think was bad, some of it I think was good, but you just keep having to try. And I am thankful for doctors who will try something different. And that story that Terry told this morning about, we have to tell the story. When her pain gets so high, she stutters. She can't speak. And when she's having to sit up, her pain elevates. So you go to a doctor's office and you've got to tell your story. Guess what? She can't even speak hardly at times. So who has to tell that story? Me. Yeah. So that's a responsibility that is a huge responsibility. because they can look at you as trying to take over. That you're one of those mamas that wants her to be sick forever, and all you're trying to do is just help them understand how bad she is and that she needs help. If I had a Nirvana magic wand, what I would like is one place I could go, and there would be a doctor that understood it, and he had a network of other doctors that understood what my child needed. That would be... Kelly has an incredible sense of humor, and we planted some trees in the yard, and this morning I asked in a text, I said, did the tree die last night? And what came back to me was, well, good morning, Mama. The tree, thanks for asking about me. The tree is still standing. And so her humor is amazing. But she comes out screaming pain, and she comes out praying to God, thanking Him that He took her out of her pain. And she says all the time, God is good, all the time, God is good.
Four courageous, noble women. Thank you. Any questions from the audience? We're done now.
I too am a care partner to my son. And I think one of the things that is really difficult is that culturally we value independence and autonomy. None of us are exempt from the social systems we operate within. They're a critical part of our mental health and our well-being. So the notion that we must separate and operate independently and autonomously at a time when we're most efficient, and that's expected of us by our medical systems, somehow seems to me to be one of those cognitive distortions that's culturally driven. And I encourage you to address that among your own value systems, but also not to accept that as a barrier to care or a barrier to supporting the person that you love who depends on you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'd just like to agree and comment on the RSD CRPS acronyms. When I say CRPS and I explain it to them, complex regional pain syndrome, the response I've gotten is, well, you know what, I have pain too, suck it up. But if I say I have reflex sympathetic dystrophy, people go, ooh, that must be something significant. That makes you somehow worthy of your pain, worthy of your suffering. So I don't use the CRPS at all, even though the medical community tells me that's what we call it now. It hasn't worked for me. It's great if it works for other people. But so many times I've gotten that comment, well, I have pain too. Why don't you, take a pill? It's all in your head. So, thanks.
Thank you.
On that note about the name or the whole suck it up comments, hers, my car, everything is always stocked with brochures and pamphlets on RSD, CRPS, whatever you want to call it. And anytime I get any kind of comment, they're generally not mouthy comments because they're not going to like the response. But anytime I get any kind of comment, I'm loading them up with brochures and an education and the history of the disease and everything they might ever want to know, and then some about that. So I highly recommend. RSDSA has some really great brochures. NIH has some. They're all over the internet. You can download them for free. I highly recommend you just keep some on hand, and especially if you get an ignorant comment, give it to them. It avoids confrontation, and maybe they'll learn something. Don't give it to them that way.
I just want to echo what Gracie said, that basically we have a lot of great brochures that we'd gladly love to send. And also we have bracelets, and we have card magnets. Remember, that's our new toy. But any other questions?
Hi, my name is Mark Samuelson. I'm the caregiver for my wife, Jill. And may I first say, my wife is the most heroic and bravest woman I know in this world. I know that this is a question period, but I don't know if we have questions. We don't have a panel of doctors that has a diagnosis for caregivers, so what do we know what to ask? We're all out here, and maybe this is a time of encouragement. We're all playing this day by day ourselves. Those who have this disease, none of us even care to imagine it. We can see it, and we can look at it, and we can cry because they're in the other room screaming as they take a shower, but we don't know. And I'm sitting here and I'm listening to everybody, and my wife's over here crying, and I got tears in my eyes. And I personally I want to address the men. I hear so many men, and I see on the pages where they leave their wives who have CRPS. Men, if you're in here, I just want to say what Jimmy Valbottom said. Don't give up. Just don't give up. They look at us with the big eyes. We're their heroes. They're looking for a hero in their doctors aren't their heroes most of the time. Nobody else is out there. We've got to be their heroes. Your wife loves you. Be there for her. They're not mad at you. Don't take things personally. They're going to have days where you're the worst person in the world. They're not against you. They're against the disease. So if I can encourage all of us, this is a question. Be there for one another. Lift each other up. Let the person you know, there's nothing she can do that's going to chase me off. She has tried. But she's trying to chase me off. So if there's a battle cry that we as caregivers can have, don't give up. I wear it proudly, and I tell her every day, I'm not giving up on you. You can tick me off, I'll go outside and clean up the dog dirt and play with the dog, and I'll come back inside. So that's my encouragement. I don't know if it's a question time, that's just my encouragement. Sorry for taking over.
I've been a caretaker for 12 years, I'm sorry. And I find that the best thing for the RSD patients is that to listen to them. You understand, but God took me through taking care of her those 12 years. Nobody but God. I didn't get tired. I had to give her opiates for around the clock. I had to go to her in California because the doctor left her unattended with oxycodone. He wrote a prescription for a year. And he left town and didn't leave her in no other doctor's hands. And it was really hard to get a doctor to touch her. Because if another doctor that done already messed you up won't come in behind him and touch you unless he left orders. He didn't leave orders, so it took me a long time to find somebody to take care of her, a pain management doctor. They took her through breaking her wrist every day to desensitizing her hand, and she couldn't stand for you to touch all the screaming and hollering. I know it was nobody but God that could get through that because I wouldn't have made it stand for 24 hours a day taking care of her for 12 years. And she became homeless. Her husband walked out and left. Maybe I thought. Thank you.
Interrelated questions. where can we get the quote guidelines for CRPS that are out there, and where can we get unbiased information? Because you hear from the drug makers, you hear from manufacturers, you hear from certain doctors who only do certain things. Where can patients look to get that unbiased insight?
So the CRPS guidelines, well, the RSDSA published some of the CRPS guidelines back in 2004. 2004 they were published, and those guidelines are actually pretty good guidelines, but they're guidelines. Remember that they're not. That's not it. And it's 2004. This is 2017. 17.
I might be wrong. I think they're a little later in the NAP, but I think they're about 5 years, so it's about 2013, something.
Right,
like that.
and so I'll stand up. So they were published initially in 2004, and then they were checked or completed, or they were again verified in 2010. And those are guidelines. Those are pretty decent guidelines, but I think they're old. They're outdated. There are many things in it that should change. One is that it says that it should be CRPS is only in the arms and legs. It can be anywhere else. There are lots of things about it. So as far as treatment-wise, unbiased opinions, those are very hard to get because this is considered a rare disease. It's considered there are lots of questions about this, the etiology, which is the cause of this condition. And so whenever these question marks come up, then it's a question of physician experience, physician's training, lots of these things come up. And as Dr. Johnson said very well, that's it all depends on who's doing the treatment. If someone does 3 spinal cords a year, or if someone's doing 20 a year, there's a difference. And then so if there's someone who sees 3 RSD patients in a year, or someone sees 50 of them, there's a big difference in the treatment, because you do learn from experience.
There's 3 guidelines, the UK, Netherlands, and the United States, and they're all on our website under Research Medical. You click down, there's a tab, Clinical Guidelines. We're in the process that we have asked for some money to update our guidelines because they really don't talk about bisphosphonates, the ketamine, and the newer spinal cord stimulators.
Actually, there's a very good guideline. You're right. From the Netherlands, they came up with a trend. There's a consortium called TREND, TREND, and they came up with 2 guidelines, one for physicians, one for patients, and those are phenomenal.
Yes, they are.
And I think those are pretty unbiased. But again, those are also old.
Hi, I have a 2-part question. The first one is, why do you not recommend Cymbalta? And the second one is, what is your opinion on bilateral rib resection for RSD and TOS?
What was the first one?
Why do you not recommend Cymbalta? And the second, what's your opinion on bilateral rib resection for RSD and TOS?
All right. Why I don't like Cymbalta? Somebody had talked about one of the ways these drugs. One of the ways we control pain in the body is downstream, where the brain sends down signals to suppress pain signals. So as the pain travels up my arm, my brain sends down signals to modulate these pain signals. And that's the drug, the chemical that does this is norepinephrine. And so if you take a drug, theory is if you take a drug that increases your norepinephrine level in the brain and the spinal cord, that should suppress your pain. And that's the principle behind some of these drugs. So comparing 2 of the drugs, one was milnacipran, sold as Savella, and the other drug is Cymbalta, which is duloxetine, which is sold as Cymbalta. Milnacipran increases norepinephrine levels 3 times that of Cymbalta. And that's what we are looking for. The other thing is that Savella, for those of you who don't know, has been approved for treatment of fibromyalgia, which is which also has the same central sensitization issue. The other thing about Cymbalta is that it's a nightmare to come off that drug. It's a nightmare. So those are the reasons why I don't like duloxetine, and that's again my preference.
What was the name of the one that you recommend over the Cymbalta?
It's Savella, Savella. And the question about rib resection. So you're talking about rib resection for thoracic outlet syndrome?
I had bilateral rib resection and I rapidly got worse. And they thought if they removed the ribs, it would give more room with the scalenes and the supraspinatus and just everything. And I got so much worse quickly. And then my Harvard physician said, you know, they never should have done this to you. This isn't protocol anymore. This is old school. This is part of what made you worse. And so, do you have any medical opinion on that?
For thoracic outlet syndrome, so you had thoracic outlet syndrome?
I have 2S and RSD.
Right. It's not the best choice to do rib resection. It's not the first choice. It's actually the 10th choice. There are many other things that can be done before that. In fact, now they do it endoscopically, so they don't even have to do that. But if if they have to remove a rib, they have to remove a rib. But it's hard for me to tell you whether it was the right thing to do or not. But do you still have symptoms of thoracic outlet syndrome?
Yeah.
You know, a good center is in St. Louis, Missouri. There's a thoracic outlet center. And there's Dr. Thompson, who's actually the doctor from a lot of the sports teams. And he does they have a really good center. They do it the intelligent way. Worth looking at them.
I want to thank all of you for being here, first of all. I have a question for Dr. Johnson. Dr. Johnson. You do ketamine and you do spinal cord stimulation, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so I have a question for you. Since you do ketamine, you understand central sensitization, correct?
Some parts of it, yes.
In a corner.
I'm really going to put you in a corner now. Brace yourself. Yep, hold your chair. Your presentation focused heavily on spinal cord stimulation and the DRG.
Yes.
Now knowing that you understand central sensitization, why is it, or let me rephrase that. Okay, why did you choose to focus so heavily on spinal cord stimulation and DRG, knowing that those cannot address central sensitization when ketamine can?
Because my assignment was interventional therapies.
Because I'm sorry, what?
My assignment. That's what I was asked to address. Now, if you remember, I talked about IV ketamine, but I said Dr. Chopra covered it already. And so I just said that I have tried it also, and I love it. But my assignment was interventional therapies to cover those. So I did my assignment.
So you chose a broad overview of everything that interventional therapy can do.
Right.
Okay.
We gave them the red lights.
So I stayed within my lines.
So can I rephrase?
Sure.
Is it your opinion then that spinal cord stimulation and the DRG are not a good choice due to central sensitization?
No, I think the least invasive thing that works is the choice. And so if ketamine does the job, I'm more than happy to stay away from spinal cord stimulation. Okay. I only want to do what works for the patient, what works for the person. I think ketamine is the first choice,
Fair enough. Thank you.
but not the last choice.
Just let me have someone who hasn't asked a question and made a comment first. Anyone else?
Back here.
Okay. I'll be back.
I just want to say I had thoracic outlet surgery. I had my entire chest wall basically put back together again in lieu of losing my left arm, which they were about to amputate. And frankly, I don't know what I'd do if I were put up against the same thing again, but I can tell you that it was a living hell. And a great many of the people did not think I would live through it. Neither did I. I had went directly downhill and have barely pulled myself up. I'm just making a comment at this time. I just want to warn anyone to be very careful before they go in, and especially a sympathectomy, because that's what I had. And it destroyed me. And please, they begged me. I had someone call me from Europe, told me to be very careful. I didn't listen to him. I'm just saying, please don't be like me and listen.
Thank you, Victoria.
I have a question for Tammy. Have you heard of light beam generator therapy, which helps with lymphedema? And what I know about it is because you just put lights on you, there's no pressure, no compression. Have you or do you know of anyone who's had success using that, dealing with the edema that comes with RSD?
Yeah, I think, are you talking about cold laser therapy?
No.
Okay, I'm not sure.
Light beam
I think it's a treatment technique used in therapy, the light beam. It's kind of in the, the application, yes. And I don't have the training in that treatment technique. I've heard mixed reviews, to be honest with you. I've heard some people respond and some people don't have very much success. I think one of the limiting factors is it's not typically covered by insurance, to put it out there. So that's one of the blocks that hits a lot of us in terms of therapy, because when it comes completely out of a patient's pocket, it's very difficult. And I know y'all know that with dealing with RSD, that it's a lot of things you have to be, paid out of your pocket. So that's probably why there's not a lot of research out there yet on that, because it hasn't been covered 100% by insurance. But I haven't done that myself, but I've heard mixed reviews. I don't know all the details. So that doctor's mind.
Just one additional comment. There is some emerging medical evidence that photomodulation, of which that may be a part, does have some effects on mitochondria. That may also help with the fluid changes in the arm. So there is some evidence that photomodulation does affect mitochondria, which then affects the metabolism, local metabolism, that may give that some effect.
Thank you.
Hello, my daughter has been suffering with RSD since 1998, and almost 20 years this December. It will be 20 years. And I have a question for all of you on the panel. She probably would have lost her leg had it not been for Dr. Johnson. The doctors in Erlanger and Chattanooga, which is where we were near Cleveland, wanted to amputate her leg. And by some miracle, we wound up in Nashville with Dr. Johnson, who agreed with me that that wouldn't help, it would hurt. And he gave her serial casting. And she went through hell and back doing the serial casting because her foot was completely dropped down from the dystrophy. And thank God she learned to walk, even though the doctors in Chattanooga told me she'd never learn to walk again. She's a producer here in Nashville for a news station, and she did learn, and she did well. However, she lives in horrible pain every day, and when she moved to Tennessee, her insurance went up threefold. Her deductible went up to an outrageous amount, and my daughter lives here and works in this pain without any treatment. And RSD was almost not researched back when she first had it. No doctor could tell us much about it. Thank God for you, Dr. Johnson. However, why hasn't more research and more money been given to RSD or CRPS treatment and research to try to help people that the treatment wouldn't be so astronomical? Because I know all of you care and you want that. My daughter deserves better than this, and she deserves to have a little bit of comfort sometime in her life. And I just want to know, with all the research and we can go on, what is there any answer?
Dr. Lewis, we want to talk about that?
Well, I'll try. You heard me reference this morning how strongly I feel about patient-centered research. The part of the problem that we have in research in general is that chronic pain patients don't fit the model for the sampling frame that is funded by many of these projects of government because there's difference testing and so forth involved. So many people who have issues like you have in the room simply don't make it into the research. And therefore, your results, when they are finally published, they are generalized in a way to the population of patients that may not represent your needs at all. So that's a really big issue in research, not only design, but ethics. And the way that I think it should be handled is that patients have to become not invisible. You know, you really, one of the things that our system does very well is it shames you and drives you under a rock. You know, it is, you are almost operating from a position right now where you're illegal or you're, you know, your hand is out and you're asking for something that people don't understand, and that's not right. There's a stereotype about who consumers are that is simply inaccurate. And the only way to correct that is to join the public conversation. So I strongly encourage you to do that. If you are in Tennessee or the surrounding area, I have put together a Tennessee Pain Care for All Facebook group, and I encourage you to join that if you've got a Facebook account. If you're a professional, Jamie's already in this group. We are working very hard to develop the conversation about what Tennessee needs for pain care. Tennessee certainly is not alone. The whole South is a wasteland, by and large, because of Medicaid expansion and so forth. But we've got to have a personal relationship, not with Jesus, but with our legislators. Okay? Our legislators are the key to moving this mountain forward because all healthcare is local. So if you don't become a presence in those local decisions that are made, you know, if you don't ask, you don't get. And people need to understand that you are real, that you're not asking for something that is unreasonable. And if you don't get it, your entire household is affected. And when your entire household is affected, then your entire community is affected, because there's a magnified effect that's economic, it's educational, and it's political. Chronic pain patients buy stuff. Your households buy stuff. It's really important that you exercise that economic power that you have, and you make it matter in your community. You come out from under that corner you've been placed into and get on the phone and start talking to these people. Make them come to your house, visit you at home, so that they can see what you're talking about and how their failure to respond affects you and your household personally. When we start asking for research dollars, it's going to come because there is a solution that we can identify that needs to be solved. And that solution is going to be economic.
Do you know what the percentage of dollars spent on pain research of all our healthcare research dollars spent are billions? 1%. Do you know right now that the Trump administration budget will drastically cut the NIH research? So listen, be vocal. And again, Dr. Lewis is very vocal on Twitter. Follow her.
I've just had it. I'm a consumer too. I'm telling you, I've had it. I'm frustrated by the failure of our political leadership to respond to the citizens who elect them. I am frustrated as a professional working in this field that I have never seen such a breakdown as I've seen in the last 10 years. And it's a galloping problem that has been marginalized and made invisible. And that is not acceptable. It's not acceptable to me, and it shouldn't be acceptable to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chopra. My question is about ketamine. Is this something that can be long-term, and I'm talking 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, that will not hurt them? And then my question to follow up with that, has there been any study done if there's been any long-term negative side effects with it?
To my knowledge, there hasn't been any long-term studies showing any long-term damage. The effects seem to be temporary in that regard as far as side effects go. I think, again, the key is to use what are called sub-anesthetic doses. There are some people who advocate ketamine comas. I don't really advocate that. I think that's gone a little too far. But I think using ketamine in low doses, the lowest dose that's effective, I think you can do that on a long-term basis.
Yes, I agree with that. There's been no long-term studies, but from just experience of doing these ketamine infusions for so many years, I would say it actually has a very positive influence on patients. I have a student who started when he was 16. He's now 19, and he's on his way to becoming a neuroscientist. We have a CPA. She wasn't working. Now she's working for the Auditor General's office. We have people who have gone back to work. So the whole idea, the concept that ketamine affects you cognitively is not based on any truth that I know of. Yeah, it does affect you for the short term, but so do most drugs. I mean, if I popped a pill of Vicodin, I would be out for some time. But I'll get functional. It'll help me be functional later on. But that's not a reason not to take this treatment.
I just did a literature research on neurocognitive effects of ketamine, and the longest study's been short. It's been 6 months, but there were no terrible effects on that. But it is a concern, and there definitely has to be more research.
My question is for Dr. Chopra. I'm in the dysautonomia community, and so I know that there is some research that is being done to try to link CRPS with dysautonomia, or POTS specifically, with the adrenergic antibodies. Do you have any idea when that research would be completed, and would that make any difference in the way that you would be treating CRPS if you were to find that that link did exist?
No, it shouldn't make a difference. I mean, yes, it is a complication of CRPS, dysautonomia or POTS, but it does add to the disability of having pain. One of the problems with POTS or dysautonomia is the severe fatigue, the mental fog, all those add to it. And POTS is a little easier to treat, and there are people they are specialist cardiologists will treat it, and so I think having research on it is not going to make a difference to how we treat POTS or how we treat CRPS.
Question for either of the physicians. I've read that there may be, over here if you're looking, a connection between Lyme's disease and RSD or CRPS, and I wonder if you could comment on
that. There's a significant population of people with chronic pain who have exposure to Lyme disease. Lyme disease, as you know, is related to spirochetes that, if undetected, will take up residence in specific places in your body and you know, magnify a number of things that can go wrong over the long haul. I see lots and lots of references to Lyme and these disorders. I have a lot of reports of Lyme disease and arachnoiditis. So I think personally there's something to be looked at there. I don't know that the research is being done yet to really locate those two problems in the same space, but there's some evidence building in virtual world and in some case study reports that may have something to tell us. Without a doubt, those spirochetes do damage over time. And we've seen that as a causative factor for arachnoiditis, so that makes some sense to me.
Couple more questions.
What constitutes a low dose of ketamine? When you're saying the low dose, what number are you talking about, or numbers?
It all depends on who's doing it, but in my practice, what we do is we start with about 25 milligrams per hour, basically about a half milligram per kilo per hour. We increase that every half hour until the patient notices some pain relief. Then we continue that infusion for about 5 hours or so. So it depends on each and every patient. We don't have a cocktail. We go by every patient and what they notice.
Same thing here. I mean, in general, you're looking at a few hundred milligrams and not a few thousand milligrams. That's generally what the system is. And Dr. Johnson's protocol is pretty much the same as what I follow also. I think the highest I have is 400, 500 milligrams. And the lowest actually I have is 100 milligrams. I don't know. That's the infusion. Total, yeah, for 4 hours.
Another question?
I have a question for Dr. Chopra. You talked about the importance of opiates and their effect on glial cells. What are these glial cells doing when they're not releasing the cytokines? Like, what is their job?
They are the janitors. They clean up. That's their job. They are part of the immune system for the central nervous system. And what they do is they clean up, make sure that the neurons are fine, and if there's any, basically part of the immune system. So normally that's what they're doing.
They're the caretakers of the neurons.
Here's another perspective. I kind of see them as drones around the queen bee. They make sure the queen bee has everything that she needs.
Yes, please. Is our national lobby the from rare diseases or RSDSA? Who's our national lobby and how active and how effective are we, and what do we need to do about that?
We have not been very effective on a national level, to be truthful. Okay. Right now, we do participate in a number of patient advocacy coalitions. We're really trying to roll back the CDC guidelines in another organization that really is effective, and we follow their lead a lot, is the U.S. Pain Foundation. So, and they're really looking at each state, and especially looking at what they call medical switching, where that you might have decided on a medical plan in January, and all of a sudden it's July, and that medicine that was in the formulary that you agreed on in January is either sky-high costing now, or it's eliminated. So, U.S. Pain Foundation. They're based in Connecticut too. But we're in the process of looking at how can we be more effective as a national organization. What do we support? Right now, there has not been any breakthrough pain research in CRPS in quite a while. And that's what we really have to really look at. Where do we put our money? And that's what we're looking at as an organization. But U.S. Pain, another one is Gracie, what's SPAN? Is it SPAN? We'll give you another one that it's an offshoot of the American Academy of Integrative Pain Management, and they also look at all the different bills that affect people in pain across the country.
No, this is SPPN.
SPAN, I think. We'll give you that. Person is there's a social worker there who coordinates, Amy Goldstein. She's
That's SPPN.
Can I make a comment here? This is just me. I don't speak for anybody else. But I'm speaking loudly for me. There is power in numbers. And I really encourage our field of consumers and consumer groups and professionals to collaborate together, because we right now have a very fractured message. Nobody knows who to talk to. It is very easy to separate the conversations. You know, if you go onto Facebook, you see 300 pain groups, okay? Nothing wrong with that. But we don't have a unified message or a unified footprint. And somewhere we have to deal with that, because we do have a lot of power that we are not pulling the sled with, and we're not putting our shoulder to the yokes. And it's really hard for people in pain to do that, but we have families and we have friends and we have neighbors, and they're willing to work for us in our community if we put that to work. The other thing that I want to talk about is insurance. Insurance is chaos right now. It's being used as a weapon to separate customer groups. And we need to get really noisy about insurance. We need to be very clear about what we need as consumers, as individual consumers. Insurance is let at the local and regional level. It is monitored by your state insurance offices. You need to hold those people accountable to manage your insurance contract. If your insurance contractor is not providing you with the service that you need, and your drug program has removed the drugs that you need from their formulary, somebody needs to drive right down here to Nashville to the Commission's office for insurance management, or wherever you are in your state, and say, I'm paying this much a month, and I expect to be served. And make them drag your public health people in, because your public health people write those contracts and manage those relationships with the federal government. Get your state insurance plan. Get your state health plan between your state Department of Health and the federal government. Know what is in it. Find out where you are in that plan and hold these people accountable. Call your state insurance office and your state public health office and say, hi, I'm Terry. I've done it. Okay?
1 in 3 Americans are suffering with chronic pain. 1 in 3 Americans. You don't hear that. You just hear about the opiate epidemic. Did you find it?
Yeah.
State Pain Policy Advocacy. Please write that down. It is a marvelous organization that they will alert you in your state to what bill that you don't know about is going to hurt you. Okay?
Repeat that again, Jim, one more time, please.
State Pain Policy Advocacy.
SPPAN. Just Google it. Okay. Listen, I want to thank you all for coming. It has been an honor to be here, and I want to thank our faculty who's here and who has left already. But we're going to have, hopefully within this, within a month or month and a half, they'll be up online. Again, I really think you really got to follow Terry Lewis on Twitter. You got to be in the Tennessee Pain Care. Tennessee Pain Care.
Tennessee Pain Care for All, y'all.
On Facebook. And we'd love to have your evaluation on your way out. And again, God bless you all. Travel safely. Thanks for coming.